Hymn number 338. 338. 338. Let's all stand together and sing. There's not a friend like the lowly Jesus. No, not one. No, not one. None else can heal all our soul's diseases. No, not one. No, not one. Jesus knows all about our struggles. He will guide till the day is done. There's not a friend like the lowly Jesus. No, not one. No, not one. Verse number 3. There's not an hour that he is not near us. No, not one. No, not one. No night so dark, but his love can cheer us. No, not one. No, not one. Jesus knows all about our struggles. He will guide till the day is done. There's not a friend like the lowly Jesus. No, not one. No, not one. Thank you. You may be seated.
I like that song. It really gives us a reminder of how balanced Jesus is. There's not a friend like the lowly Jesus. And he's considered lowly. It's like, that's not very respectful to call Jesus. Well, the Bible calls him that, and Jesus calls himself that. I am meek and lowly of heart, he says, and ye shall find rest for your soul. The second verse, I think it's the second verse, it says, there's no other friend that is so high and holy. And then the next line is, there's no other friend that's so meek and lowly. And our issue is that when we try as Christians to be like Jesus, often we get it wrong because we emphasize one or the other. We're better than everybody else, or nothing matters, and truth isn't important. And Jesus gives us the example of having both. And that's what's important, to follow all of his scripture and follow his whole example, that he loves and accepts all those around us and always stands on truth at the same time. And that's the example that we should follow. We're going to be in Galatians chapter 2 this morning, verse number 11. If you didn't get a handout this morning, raise your hand. We want to make sure you got one. Our files in the back, and we'll make sure you get one if you didn't already. If you didn't, let us know. I think we just have a couple here, and other than that, we're good. And over here. Good. Galatians chapter 2. I have a very, very short passage this morning, and this is an interesting message, but it is what it is. It's there. And so I'm just going to give you what is in front of us this morning. Galatians chapter 2. I want us to read the passage. I want us to do a little background, and then we'll read the passage. Can we do that? We've been seeing in the last couple weeks through this book, Paul is going to write to the church of Galatia. This is the earliest book that Paul has written to correctly define the truth of the gospel. It's not just the definition of how one can get saved, but also how one lives to be right with Christ. Because the problem is, they had started out Christianity with a lot of Jews being saved, and the Jews thought there were a lot of extra things that you needed to do, either to get saved or to be right with God, and they were imposing all those extra things on the people around them, on the Gentiles around them. And so, Paul is preaching that that's not what the gospel means. In the first couple chapters, he's been really defending that he is an apostle. In chapter 1, he says that his message and his position was not from man or by man, but by Jesus Christ. And so at that point, he doesn't owe anybody anything. He doesn't have to answer to anybody. But yet, we saw in chapter 2, verse 1 through 10, that he still desired to be unified with the other brothers. So he didn't have to go down and talk to Peter, James, and John and answer to them about the gospel he had been preaching, which came directly from Jesus. But he goes down there anyway, in order to make sure that the brothers who are leading the church are on the same page about what is absolutely important. Now, while under some circumstances, what we have in this instance is that he brings along with him Titus, who is not circumcised, which was a very, very important thing for Jewish people. And he does it on purpose. And he does that to serve